What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Fast. Today, let's get started with Kamaru Usman's last chance at relevancy is UFC Atlanta, says Hall of Famer. The former UFC welterweight champion feels he has been disrespected by rising 170-pound contenders. One UFC Hall of Famer believes Kamaru must buck the trend if he wishes to stay relevant. During an episode of ESPN's Good Guy Bad Guy show, Daniel Cormier praised Kamaru Usman's past accomplishments. So yes, Kamaru doing what he did should be applauded, but a win over Buckley can propel him forward. Doesn't matter what happened with Leon Edwards because he's the biggest name, and if he wins, he can then yell, Belal Muhammad, Jack Della Maddalena, I want my shot, especially if Shavkat is still hurt and those guys will listen. Is it safe to say that we are right in the midst of Kamaru's last chance? Not best chance, this is his last chance to try to not only become a champion, but to even really stay relevant in his division. Usman's last bout took place back in October 2023. That was a short-notice middleweight fight against Khamzat Chimaev. The bout was competitive, but Usman lost via majority decision. Kamaru went on to heal from injuries, and the soon-to-be 38-year-old will be back in action just before summer. Cory Sandhagen vows most impressive performance of career against Deiveson Figueiredo. UFC bantamweight Cory Sandhagen is scheduled to lock horns with Deiveson Figueiredo for his upcoming fight held in Des Moines on May 3rd. The Sandman claims that the upcoming contest will witness his most impressive performance to date. Although the Colorado native had shown resilience against tough fighters like Khabib Nurmagomedov and Petr Yan, he ended up losing said fights. Referring to the fights where he lost despite giving an impressive performance, Sandhagen vows to defeat Figueiredo definitively. In the past, I'm just losing by inches. I'm not really losing by miles against any of these guys. I just gotta go out there and touch up some things. I'm sick of being the guy that's really good at almost winning. It's hard to be a really good fighter, but I'm trying my best. I'm a super experienced guy. I think I can land myself in a little pot of luck after the Deiveson Figueiredo fight. I gotta go out there and make this luck happen by going out and looking like the most impressive Cory Sandhagen that the world has ever seen on Saturday. Brandon Moreno says clock is ticking on another UFC flyweight title reign. Brandon Moreno admits that he believes time is running out on another UFC title reign. Moreno has already captured the UFC flyweight championship twice, but he wants a third reign with undisputed gold. Having gone winless against the current 125-pound ruler, Moreno knows that the clock is ticking on his hopes of becoming a three-time UFC champion. I want to be 100% ready and do everything well because I see this, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I see it as my last title chance. I want that fight to be perfect. Being very honest with you, I've officially lost twice against the current champion, and if I were to lose a third, I'd be in a very bad spot. So that's why I want the title opportunity to be almost perfect. Moreno rebounded from back-to-back split decision losses by defeating Amir Albazi back in November 2024. He followed that up with a unanimous decision victory over Steve Erceg in March. Belal Muhammad recalls Khabib Nurmagomedov, putting sense of confidence in him with inspiring pre-fight talk. Belal Muhammad recently opened up about Khabib Nurmagomedov being in his corner and how he inspired him prior to the fight. He noted that the former UFC lightweight champion reassured him of his preparation, which allowed him to compete with confidence. Muhammad went through a long path of defeating top 10 ranked opponents before finally receiving his welterweight title shot and becoming champion. The reigning welterweight champion mentioned that the Eagle instilled confidence in him and used their faith to ensure he didn't dwell on the results, regardless of what transpires. The first time Khabib cornered me, he was so calm in the back room. He was smiling and he was saying, "Brother, you worked hard. Now it's up to Allah. If he wants you to win, you're gonna win. If not, then there's a reason for it." And it just put a sense of confidence inside of me where it just frees you. Free yourself from the result, where I'm not afraid of getting embarrassed. I'm not afraid of losing or getting beat up. Paul Felder urges Bo Nickal to be aggressive, really commit at UFC on ESPN 67. The wrestling standout is coming off a lackluster unanimous decision win over Paul Craig at UFC 309, going the distance for the first time in his career. He opted to outpoint Craig to avoid his dangerous ground game, but Felder wants to see Nickal play to his strengths, especially as he climbs the middleweight ladder. Both guys have a lot to prove here. I feel like more so on Bo Nickal's side, believe it or not, because in that Paul Craig fight, he went out there was a lot of eyeballs, a lot of hype on this kid, and he just never pulled the trigger. It happens. It's how you bounce back from that type of performance. Granted, got the win, but we want to see more from him. This is a kid we've been talking could be a future champion down the line, so you gotta go out there. You gotta be aggressive. I don't care if it's with the striking or the wrestling, but I think he's really got to commit in this one. With 13 submissions on his record, De Ridder also presents a dangerous grappling game. However, Felder says Nickal can't be afraid to go to the ground with him. I want to see him against somebody like De Ridder use his wrestling, believe it or not. He's got great jiu-jitsu, he's got knockout power, but I think when you've got that Penn State wrestling behind you and all the hype behind you, we want to see that. I want to see you show that elite wrestling inside of that cage, and you can't not wrestle because guys have good jiu-jitsu or guys have a submission threat. When you're getting to this level, you've got to prove that my wrestling and my jiu-jitsu can nullify all of that, or I want to see him go out there. De Ridder has shown that he's not the best striker. He does enough to get the job done, but it's really when it hits the floor that he does his best work. But if he could go out there against De Ridder and challenge him on the mat or be aggressive on the feet, we got to see one or the other from him. MMA analyst believes UFC should retire BMF title if Dustin Poirier wins retirement fight. MMA analyst Din Thomas believes the UFC should retire the BMF title if Dustin Poirier wins the belt in his last fight. At UFC 318, Dustin Poirier will compete in his final fight in the sport of mixed martial arts. He will ride off into the sunset following a trilogy bout with Max Holloway, with the BMF title being on the line. It's a title that the Diamond has competed for once before, losing via knockout to Justin Gaethje, who subsequently lost the strap to Holloway. While it may not be a world championship, you'd have to think Poirier would be pretty happy to take the championship home with him. In his home state of Louisiana, he could have the storybook ending that most fighters can only dream of. I think this should be the last one, only because the BMF belt is so limited. Everybody wants to fight for it, but because it's kind of been in the hands of lightweights and welterweights, you really alienate a lot of people who should fight for it, who could fight for it. So it's like, what are we doing with this? And to be honest with you, the game ain't really full of BMFs like it used to be. Now we've got a bunch of athletes lobbying for money and money fights. We don't got a lot of BMFs like we used to have, so I think they should just do away with it. If they retire the BMF belt with Dustin, I'm okay with that. It gives Dustin an opportunity to walk away with the BMF belt. This is something that will really encapsulate his entire career, because Dustin was a BMF his entire career, and if he could walk away with that belt, come on, man. This is storybook. Charles Oliveira's manager wants Islam Makhachev to follow the Ilia Topuria route if he moves up to welterweight. Charles Oliveira's manager, Diego Lima, is asking for clarity in the lightweight division, which is currently facing a jam. Ilia Topuria is looking for a title shot after he moved up to lightweight from featherweight, and Islam Makhachev is still unsure if he wants to go up a weight class or not. Now, the Dagestani reportedly is waiting for the results of the UFC 315 main event, where Jack Della Maddalena faces Belal Muhammad. Lima now believes that if Makhachev moves up a weight class, the UFC should strip him or introduce an interim title to keep the division running. Then he loses the belt. It's like Topuria. I think the UFC will ask him to choose. If he says, I'll fight at 170, then they have to create an interim belt. You can't put a whole division on hold. When an athlete moves up, he either needs to drop his belt or the UFC needs to create an interim. When a fighter starts taking too long to decide what he's going to do, it's time to create an interim. The division must move, man. Fighters work so hard to get to the belt, and when they get there, they want to just sit on it. It shouldn't be like that, man.